obviously heard the news now. Can you just kind of reiterate exactly what's happened over the last 24 hours, please?
No, I think obviously it's been a difficult time for us in camp, especially difficult for the people involved in the immediate process. There's a situation with the COVID that Stuart Armstrong came in, tested negative when we had the UEFA test done yesterday. The results came through this morning, and unfortunately Stuart is tested positive, and by association and close contact, NHS have done their track and trace, and we've identified another 4, which includes 2 players and 2 staff members that are also out. Obviously you know the players that are involved and key players for us, so a difficult time for me as a manager, and now some difficult decisions to make, or some other decisions to make in terms of team selection, which really is my main focus now, because what's happened has happened. Hopefully everyone involved come through with no issues, and the health of everybody is more important than any game of football. But now, as a football manager, the national manager, I have to make sure that we get the team on the pitch, right frame of mind, and ready to go for a positive result.
I know when we sat in this room before the Czech Republic game, you said you had every sympathy because you said it will happen to other teams. Is that just in the back of your mind, were you always worried that it could happen?
Well, I think when you look at even just now, I think if you look at the way the virus is spreading, obviously it's becoming more prevalent as restrictions were eased, which I think everyone expected. And there's no reason why it can't infiltrate a football camp, no matter how secure your bubble is, and the protocols and everything that we put in place is there to try and protect people as much as possible. Everyone else who's involved has got a negative test, and we look forward to the game, the ones of us that are left.
Well, when we spoke on Monday, you said you maybe only have 1, maybe 2 decisions to make. Does that change now?
No, I think the decision now is obviously I work towards it, one team, and now I'll have to change that. We have a training session after this press conference. Obviously we were waiting on clarification on the situation, so we moved the training back to this afternoon. We now have a little bit of time to work on 1 or 2 different things, 1 or 2 different players coming into the team that maybe didn't expect to play. So although it's really disappointing for the ones that are not involved and have had to drop out because of the situation, for the ones who are going to get the chance to play, what an opportunity, eh?
Steve, just to clarify, will there have to be any more testing between now and the game, or is this the squad? You've definitely got these players now.
No, this is the squad. Everyone else is tested negative, so there'll be no more testing before the game. Obviously we'll be tested again on Friday before the next game.
Steve, did you break the news to the boys? Obviously everyone knows the importance of this game. I just wonder,
no, I think when it
was for them.
I think when it comes to a medical matter like that, it's the doctor's right, the doctor's privilege, and the doctor's place to speak to the players first. I've now spoken to all 3 players involved in the situation, and obviously they're very, very disappointed and upset not to be involved in such a big game.
Are you expecting to have to address this issue on a game by game basis now, Steve? Yeah,
I would think so. It's something that's there. It's in everybody's lives now, so there's nothing we can do about that. We just have to adapt as much as we can. Be ready. I think be prepared for it is probably the best way. And one of the speeches that I always give to the squad is how everybody who comes into the squad, I picked an extra large squad this time to cover such eventualities, and I tell them all that they have to be ready to step in at any time because we need everybody.
Is this now one of the most important training sessions that you're going to have given in your time as a manager to
I've given a few important ones, and the training session we did yesterday was a really good one. I got some, and my coach has got some really positive feedback from the players, so there won't be much on top of what we did yesterday. That obviously the training session, everyone's involved in it anyway, and I always tell whether they're in the starting 11 or not in the starting 11, or whether they think they're in the starting 11 or they think they're not in the starting 11. I tell them all to concentrate on what the message is, because they could be needed.
Even before today's news, how important is it just making sure that the players are absolutely prepared mentally for this? Because as we all know, there's no hand in roar, there's not that extra wind in their sails tomorrow. Do you think about the things that you have to say in the lead up to the match in terms of getting them absolutely right to be ready for the very first whistle tomorrow?
professional players know when they're taking part in a really big game. And since we came into this camp, there's been a little edge. So I know the players are ready. Obviously today will be a little dip or a little down for them, but by the time we kick off tomorrow night, they'll be ready for the game and the magnitude of the game. Don't worry about that.
Sorry, Steve, is there a concern for you going forward that if there are positive tests at international camps that club managers might be reluctant to let their players travel?
I think that would just be me speculating, and you're asking a question that would probably take me to a couple of days to think about and iron out in my mind. Like I said before, we have the situation where we're all tested. I mean, I've had 3 tests now in the last week. So we all get tested. We're as secure and safe as any club environment. So on that basis, I would think that it wouldn't be such an issue for clubs. COVID is in the clubs now. You see the situation. Liverpool have got some positive tests down south. St Mirren have had this situation. Kilmarnock have got quite a major situation just now. There was another game last night where one of the Forfar boys, I think, tested. So COVID is there. It's in every part of society. So it's in club football. It's in international football, and it's just going to be. I think it's going to be the way that it's going to be for the next. Hopefully not too long, but certainly for the next few months, maybe even up to a year, until we find a vaccine or a solution to the COVID problem.
Is there any indication where Stuart may have picked up the virus?
That one, I'm not so sure about. Obviously, just from a friend or a contact or whatever, you can pick it up from anywhere. It's very difficult to trace. Obviously, people will be working on that now to try and find out and trace back Stuart's contacts.
Steve, you mentioned your speech there. I was going to ask you about your speech, but you're probably having to rewrite it, and I'll probably have to rephrase my question. Is it going to be a case of telling the players to do it for themselves, for the country, but maybe also for the guys who now can't play because of these unfortunate circumstances?
I'm not really one for big speeches. I think when it comes to that, I trust my players. I trust the attitude and the mentality of the players to get it right on these big occasions. So rather than a rousing Braveheart speech, it will be calm, measured words to try and help them to get through the game in the best way possible and get the right result for the country.
Steve, has this been the game basically since you were appointed, Steve, that everyone's been looking at? I know you've had all the other games, but now that it's finally here, are you glad it's finally here?
Yeah, it's been a long wait for it. I'm sure all the countries that are involved in the playoff games for Euro 2020 are now glad that the moment's arrived. And we're all passionate and proud to be part of it, so desperate to get started and get on with it.
I know there have been a couple of injury concerns. Scott McKenna, Liam Palmer were a couple of other players that are going to miss tomorrow night's game through injury.
No, we've given everybody. I picked a big squad. We gave everybody every chance to be ready for the game. Scott McKenna's out and will be out the 3 games. Liam Palmer's out and will be out for all 3 games. And we've also lost Oliver Burke, who will be out for all 3 games as well. So it means we go with a much reduced squad. Obviously we lost another 3 today, so from the initial squad we've lost 6 players, which is quite a lot. So we go, I think that takes us down to 20, and that includes 3 goalkeepers. But this is what we have for the game tomorrow. Obviously, beyond that we can call more players in for the next 2 games.
How important is it to not let any of this disruption take over in terms of the minds of the players?
Now, like I said, today you have to understand that everybody's human, and when you get news like this and moments like this, it is going to affect them a little bit. But as I said earlier, we have to make sure that when they wake up tomorrow morning, it's focused only on the game. It becomes game day, match day, and they're all top professionals. They've all been involved in big games, and they know what they have to do to be ready to play.
The manager's human too, Steve. How's it affecting you?
It's certainly been a tough morning since I woke up this morning quite early and got the news, and obviously going through the whole process this morning has been quite a difficult time, but I will also wake up tomorrow morning ready to go on game day.
I know you like a challenge. Is this now turning into the biggest challenge?
It was a challenge anyway, so the challenge is always there. The challenge to take Scotland to a major tournament was always there. It's there in front of us, and it's down to us tomorrow night to make sure that we make the nation smile.
Israel have some COVID problems as well, but does the familiarity of playing Israel recently help in a way, or does it hinder in other ways?
it's probably a bit of both, to be honest, Luke. It's probably a 50-50 because obviously they've lost some players from the starting line-up the last time, so they'll have some new bodies coming in. We'll have some different players coming in. We have an idea how they'll play. They've probably got an idea how we're going to play. So, like I said before, I think in the 3 previous games, not a lot between the 2 teams. I would imagine it'll be a quite tense, nervy affair, but in football you never know, eh?
Basketball, please.
This is really tough for the Tavern Army as well. A lot of guys who have been at every game for years and years. A lot of them might not even be able to get to the pub to watch it. They'll be watching at home and stuff like that. What would be your message to them, and maybe the disappointment that they won't be there to share in the moment tomorrow?
No, we know they're not going to be there in body, but they're with us in spirit. We know we've got the nation behind us. We know everybody in the country wants us to be successful. So, like I said before, I hope we can make them smile tomorrow.
Okay, thank you all.
Thanks very much. Thank you.